2 days after little Sophia was abandoned by her father, not understanding anything, she received a mysterious letter written in his handwriting saying, "Daughter, read this before your mother hands you over to that couple forever." The Miami sun shone brightly over the small bungalow with a red roof. Sophia, a 6-year-old girl with curious brown eyes and honey-colored curly hair, ran barefoot through the soft grass, chasing a blue butterfly. Evelyn, her grandmother, watched from the porch, a gentle smile lighting up her time-worn face. Her eyes, so much like Sophia's, sparkled with deep love and a hint of concern that she tried to hide. "Grandma! Grandma! Look what I found!" Sophia shouted, running toward the porch with her little hands cupped. "What do you have there, my love?" Evelyn asked, leaning in for a better look. Sophia slowly opened her hands, revealing a small pearly shell. "It's a treasure from the sea. Can we keep it to show Daddy and Mommy when they come?" The innocent question made Evelyn's heart ache. "Of course we can, dear. I'm sure they'll love it." As Sophia returned to her adventures in the garden, Evelyn allowed herself a moment of reflection. Jessica and Daniel, Sophia's parents, worked tirelessly in Orlando, 4 hours away. Their weekend visits were rare and often tense. That evening, while preparing Sophia's favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese, Evelyn heard the phone ring. It was Jessica, her voice as cold and distant as ever. "Mom, we won't be able to come this weekend. Work is complicated," Evelyn sighed, stirring the sauce absent-mindedly. "Sophia will be disappointed. She found a shell today and wanted to show you both." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Well, save it for next time. I have to go now." The abrupt click of the phone echoed in the silent kitchen. Evelyn closed her eyes for a moment, gathering strength for what was to come. "Sophia," she called, forcing a cheerful tone in her voice. "Come wash your hands for dinner, dear." The little girl came running in, her eyes shining with anticipation. "Grandma, are Mommy and Daddy coming tomorrow?" Evelyn knelt down, meeting her granddaughter's eyes. She held Sophia's little hands in hers, feeling the weight of the truth she was about to tell. "My love," your mother called. "They won't be able to come this weekend. Their work is very busy right now." Sophia's smile faltered, her eyes filling with unshed tears. But I wanted to show them my shell." Evelyn pulled her granddaughter into a tight hug, feeling her tiny heartbeat quicken against her own. "I know, sweetheart, I know. But you know what? We'll keep that shell in a special place. And when they come, it'll be the first thing you show them, okay?" Sophia sniffled, nodding against her grandmother's shoulder. "Okay, Grandma." That night, after putting Sophia to bed, Evelyn sat on the porch, gazing at the stars. She thought of Jessica, her daughter, who never wanted to be a mother, of Daniel, who insisted on having the baby, leading to a rushed marriage, and of Sophia, the precious and innocent child caught in the middle of it all. With a deep sigh, Evelyn made a silent promise to the stars. As long as she lived, Sophia would never feel unloved, even if it meant being both mother and grandmother at the same time. Summer in Miami was at its peak when Sophia finally received the news she had been waiting for. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as Evelyn told her that she would spend a whole week with her parents in Orlando. "Grandma, is it true? Am I really going to see Mom and Dad?" Sophia asked, jumping for joy in the sunny living room. Evelyn smiled, though her eyes betrayed a hint of worry. "It's true, sweetheart. Your dad will come to pick you up tomorrow morning." That night, Sophia could hardly sleep. Her dreams were filled with laughter, hugs, and all the wonderful things she imagined doing with her parents. When the sun rose, she was already up, her small pink suitcase by the door. The familiar rumble of Daniel's car echoed down the quiet street. Sophia ran to the door, her heart racing with excitement. Daniel, a tired-looking man but with kind eyes, got out of the car with a broad smile. "Princess!" he exclaimed, opening his arms. Sophia threw herself into her father's arms, laughing as he spun her around in the air. "Daddy, I missed you so much." Evelyn watched from the porch, her heart torn between joy and apprehension. "Daniel, take good care of her," she said softly. Daniel nodded, his face becoming serious for a moment. "Always, Mom. She's my world." The trip to Orlando was filled with laughter and songs. Sophia told her father about the seashell she had found, her ballet classes, and the neighbor's new kitten. Daniel listened attentively, asking questions and laughing at his daughter's innocent jokes. However, when they arrived at the house in Orlando, the mood changed subtly. Jessica was waiting at the door, her face a mask of polite courtesy. "Welcome, Sophia," she said, her voice cold against the warmth of the day. "Mommy!" Sophia shouted, running to hug Jessica. The woman stiffened for a moment before giving a clumsy pat on her daughter's back. The following days were a roller coaster of emotions for Sophia. She desperately tried to get Jessica's attention, drawing family portraits, offering to help in the kitchen, even pretending to be interested in the TV shows her mother obsessively watched. "Look, Mommy, I drew a picture of the three of us," Sophia said proudly, holding up a colorful drawing. Jessica barely looked away from her computer screen. "That's nice, dear. Why don't you go play outside?" Sophia's face fell, but she forced a smile. "Okay, Mommy." Daniel watched these interactions with growing frustration. One night, after Sophia had gone to bed, he confronted Jessica in the kitchen. "Can't you at least pretend to care?" he whispered furiously. Jessica rolled her eyes. "I never wanted this, Daniel. You knew that from the start." "She's our daughter, Jessica. Our daughter." The silence that followed was deafening. Sophia, who had come downstairs to get a glass of water, stood frozen in the hallway, her little heart breaking at the harsh words. The next morning, Sophia's world came crashing down. She woke up to the sound of raised voices and came downstairs to find her father with a suitcase in hand. "Daddy!" she called, her voice trembling. "Where are you going?" Daniel turned around, surprise and pain etched on his face. "Princess, I need to leave for a while." "But why?" Sophia asked, tears starting to fall. "Don't you love me anymore?" Daniel dropped the suitcase and rushed to hug his daughter. "Of course I love you, more than anything in this world. But sometimes adults need some time alone to think." Jessica remained silent, watching the scene with an unreadable expression. When the door closed behind Daniel, Sophia felt as if a part of her had gone away too. She looked at Jessica, hoping for comfort. But her mother had already turned back to the television, leaving Sophia alone with her pain and confusion. That night, lying in her temporary bed, Sophia cried silently, clutching the teddy bear her father had given her years ago. She didn't understand why her father had left, why her mother seemed indifferent, why everything had to be so hard. All she wanted was a happy family, like the stories Grandma Evelyn used to tell her. But now, in that strange and cold house, that dream seemed farther away than ever. The days that followed Daniel's departure were a gray blur for Sophia. The house in Orlando, once filled with promises of family happiness, now seemed cold and empty. Jessica spent most of her time locked away in her office or absorbed in her phone, leaving Sophia wandering through the rooms like a lost little ghost. On the third morning after Daniel left, Sophia woke up to the sound of unfamiliar voices coming from the living room. Curious, she tiptoed down the stairs, her stuffed bear clutched to her chest. Jessica was sitting on the couch, chatting animatedly with a couple Sophia had never seen before. The man was tall and thin, with gray hair and a gentle smile. The woman had bright blue eyes and wore a floral dress that reminded Sophia of the curtains at her Grandma Evelyn's house. "Ah, there she is!" Jessica exclaimed, noticing Sophia standing hesitantly in the doorway. Her voice had a tone of false cheerfulness Sophia had never heard before. "Come here, sweetheart. I want you to meet some special friends." Sophia approached slowly, her brown eyes wide with curiosity and apprehension. "This is Sophia," Jessica said, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Sophia, these are Mr. and Mrs. Dubois. They came from far away to visit us." Mr. Dubois bent down, smiling warmly at Sophia. "Bonjour, petite. It's a pleasure to meet you." Sophia blinked, confused by the strange words. "Hi," she murmured shyly. Mrs. Dubois laughed softly. "Don't worry, dear. We speak English too. We came from France to meet special children like you." Something in Mrs. Dubois' tone made Sophia uncomfortable. She clutched her bear tighter. Jessica suddenly stood up. "Why don't we all go have breakfast? I'm sure Sophia would love some pancakes." "Right, dear." Before Sophia could respond, she was guided to the kitchen. Breakfast was a surreal experience. Mr. and Mrs. Dubois asked endless questions about Sophia's school, her hobbies, her dreams. Jessica answered most of them, her voice oddly enthusiastic. "She loves ballet, doesn't she, Sophia?" Jessica said, casting a significant look at her daughter. Sophia nodded silently, pushing a piece of pancake around her plate. In fact, she had given up ballet months ago, preferring art classes. But her mother seemed to have forgotten that. After breakfast, Jessica sent Sophia to play in the yard while the adults chatted. The girl complied, but instead of playing, she sat under the old oak tree, hugging her knees to her chest. Something was wrong. She could feel it in the air, in the way her mother was acting, in the strange couple's glances towards her. Silent tears began to roll down her cheeks as she desperately wished her dad was there, or better yet, that she was back at Grandma Evelyn's safe and cozy house in Miami. Suddenly, a movement in the nearby bush caught her attention. A boy, not much older than her, emerged, looking around furtively. "Psst," he whispered. "Are you Sophia?" Sophia nodded, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "Who are you?" The boy glanced nervously at the house before approaching. "There's no time to explain. Your dad sent me to give you this." He handed her a folded piece of paper. Sophia took it with trembling hands. "Read quickly and don't let your mom see," the boy instructed before disappearing as suddenly as he had appeared. With her heart pounding, Sophia unfolded the note. Her dad's familiar handwriting jumped off the page. "Sophia, my princess, you need to run. Now. Your mom plans to send you away with that couple. Go to Grandma Evelyn's house. I'll meet you there. I love you more than anything. Dad." Sophia's world seemed to freeze. Run, leave her mom, go away with strangers. Nothing made sense. She crumpled the note in her hand, fear and confusion battling inside her. At that moment, Jessica's voice echoed through the yard. "Sophia, come here, dear. We have a surprise for you." Sophia stood up, her legs trembling. She looked at the house, then at the low fence separating the yard from the street. With her heart racing and tears in her eyes, she made a decision that would change her life forever. Sophia's heart was pounding so hard she was sure everyone in the house could hear it. With trembling legs, she took a step toward the low fence that separated the yard from the street, then another, and another. "Sophia!" Jessica's voice called again, closer this time. "Where are you, sweetheart?" In a sudden panic, Sophia ran. Her small hands grasped the top of the fence, and with a strength she didn't know she had, she hoisted herself over and jumped to the other side. The impact with the ground sent a wave of pain through her knees, but she barely noticed. All that mattered was running as fast as her legs could carry her. The streets of Orlando blurred past as Sophia ran, guided only by instinct and fear. She had no idea where she was going. She just knew she needed to get away. Tears blurred her vision, and her chest burned with each ragged breath. After what felt like an eternity, Sophia found herself in a busy commercial area. Exhausted and disoriented, she stumbled to a nearby gas station, collapsing to her knees beside a large parked truck. "Hey, little one, are you okay?" A deep, kind voice asked. Sophia looked up, meeting the concerned gaze of a tall, bearded man wearing a worn baseball cap and a plaid shirt. I need to go to Miami," she whispered between sobs. "Or please, can you help me?" The trucker knelt beside her, his face a mixture of worry and hesitation. "Miami? That's far away, kid. Where are your parents?" Her father's note echoed in Sophia's mind. "My grandma lives there. Please, I need to go there. It's an emergency." The man seemed to ponder for a moment, clearly conflicted. "Look, I can't just take a kid." His words were cut off by the sound of screeching tires. A familiar car pulled into the gas station, and Sophia saw Jessica's furious face through the windshield. "Sophia!" Jessica yelled, jumping out of the car before it had even fully stopped. "What do you think you're doing?" Panic surged through Sophia again. She scrambled to her feet, stumbling backward. "No, please!" "I don't want to go." The trucker glanced from Sophia to Jessica, comprehension slowly dawning on his face. Jessica advanced, grabbing Sophia's arm tightly. "Stop this right now, you're embarrassing us." Sophia struggled, trying to break free. "No, Mom, please, I want to stay with Grandma." "What's going on here?" the trucker intervened, his voice firm. Jessica shot him a frosty glare. This is none of your business. She's my daughter, and she's coming home with me now." At that moment, another car pulled into the gas station. Sophia's heart leaped when she recognized the driver. It was her father, Daniel. "Dad!" she cried, tears of relief streaming down her face. Daniel jumped out of the car, running toward them. "Get your hands off her, Jessica!" Jessica's face twisted in a mask of fury. "What are you doing here? How did you—" Her eyes narrowed as she noticed the crumpled paper in Sophia's hand. You're the one who put these ideas in her head." Daniel ignored Jessica, kneeling in front of Sophia. "It's okay now, princess. Daddy's here." Sophia threw herself into her father's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. The trucker, visibly uncomfortable, stepped forward. "Look, I don't know what's going on here, but I think everyone needs to calm down." Jessica laughed bitterly. "Oh, great. Now we have a stranger giving us advice about our family." At that moment, a police car pulled into the station, its lights flashing. 2 officers got out and approached the group. "We received a call about a possible kidnapping," one of the officers said, looking from one face to the next. "Can someone tell me what's going on here?" The chaos that followed was a blur of accusations, explanations, and tears. Jessica accusing Daniel of kidnapping, Daniel trying to explain Jessica's plans to send Sophia to France, Sophia crying in her father's arms, and the trucker attempting to report what he had witnessed. Finally, the older officer raised his hands. "All right, that's enough. All of you are coming with us to the station. We'll sort this out there." As she was guided toward the police car, Sophia looked back, her eyes meeting the trucker's. He gave her a sad wave, a gesture of silent solidarity she would never forget. In the back seat of the police car, sandwiched between her parents who exchanged furious glares over her head, Sophia felt more lost and scared than ever. She closed her eyes, desperately wishing to be back in the safe embrace of her grandmother Evelyn, far away from this nightmare. The air in the police station was heavy with tension and raw emotions. Sophia sat in a chair that was too big for her feet barely touching the ground. Her red, puffy eyes, swollen from crying, nervously darted between her parents, who were being questioned separately by officers in opposite corners of the room. A young officer approached Sophia, crouching to meet her eye level. His voice was gentle as he spoke. "Hi, Sophia. My name is Officer Mike. Are you hungry? Do you want some water?" Sophia shook her head, hugging her teddy bear tighter. "I just want to go to Grandma's house," she whispered. Officer Mike smiled understandingly. "I get it, sweetheart. We're doing everything we can to sort this out, okay?" At that moment, the doors of the station burst open. Sophia turned, her heart leaping as she saw a familiar figure walking in. "Grandma!" she shouted, jumping out of her chair and running into Evelyn's outstretched arms. Evelyn enveloped her in a tight hug, tears streaming down her wrinkled face. "Oh, my love, it's all right now. Grandma is here." Jessica stood up abruptly, her face a mask of fury. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Evelyn stared at her daughter, her eyes as hard as steel. "I'm here to protect my granddaughter, Jessica, something you clearly failed to do." Daniel moved closer, relief evident on his face. "Evelyn, thank God you're here." The detective in charge of the case, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, cleared his throat to get everyone's attention. "Mrs. Thompson, I presume, your arrival is timely. We have a few questions for you." The next few hours were a whirlwind of accusations, explanations, and shocking revelations. Jessica, cornered by the evidence presented by Daniel and Evelyn, finally confessed her plans to send Sophia to France. "You don't understand!" she screamed, tears of frustration in her eyes. "I never wanted to be a mother. I just wanted a chance to live my own life." Sophia, hearing this, buried her face in Evelyn's shoulder, sobbing silently. Daniel, his voice trembling with restrained anger, confronted Jessica. "How could you? She's our daughter, for God's sake." Jessica laughed bitterly. "Our daughter. She's always been more yours than mine, Daniel. You wanted this baby. You insisted we get married. I just wanted to be free." The detective, having heard enough, stood up. "Mrs. Walker, I'm afraid we'll have to detain you for further investigation. There's sufficient evidence of attempted As Jessica was led away, shouting and crying, Sophia clung even tighter to Evelyn. "Grandma," she whispered, "can I go home with you now?" Evelyn looked at Daniel, a silent question in her eyes. He nodded, a sad smile on his face. "Of course, my love," Evelyn replied, stroking Sophia's hair. "Let's go home." As they were about to leave the station, Officer Mike approached again. He knelt in front of Sophia, his eyes kind. "Hey, kiddo, you were very brave today. Did you know that?" Sophia offered a small smile, the first in days. "Thank you, sir." Mike smiled back, then looked at Evelyn and Daniel. "Take good care of her. She's a special girl." As they walked out of the police station, the sun was setting on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. Sophia, holding Evelyn and Daniel's hands, looked up, feeling for the first time in days a tiny glimmer of hope. "Grandma?" she asked quietly. "Yes, dear." "Can we get ice cream on the way home?" Evelyn and Daniel exchanged a glance, a shared smile of relief and love. "Of course we can, sweetheart," Evelyn replied. "Of course we can." And so, the unlikely little family walked toward the sunset, leaving behind the nightmare of the past days and heading toward an uncertain but hopeful future, filled with love and possibilities. The weeks following Sophia's dramatic rescue were a whirlwind of emotions and changes. Evelyn's small house in Miami, once a weekend refugee, had become the center of a new beginning for the fragmented family. One sunny Sunday afternoon, Sophia played in the garden, her laughter echoing through the quiet neighborhood. Daniel, sitting on the porch with Evelyn, watched his daughter with a mix of love and concern. "She seems to be recovering well, doesn't she?" Daniel remarked, a tired smile on his face. Evelyn nodded, her eyes never leaving her granddaughter. "Children are resilient, Daniel, but she still has a long way to go." Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "But I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done, Evelyn, for Sophia, for me." Evelyn reached out, gently squeezing Daniel's arm. "Now we're family. That's what families do." At that moment, Sophia ran up to them, her eyes shining with excitement. "Hey, Daddy, Grandma, look what I found." In her hands, she held a small pearly shell, remarkably similar to the one she had found months ago, before all the turmoil began. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Evelyn smiled, her eyes welling up with tears as she remembered that distant day. Daniel knelt down to Sophia's eye level. "You know, Princess, this shell reminds me of something very important." "What, Daddy?" Sophia asked, curiosity in her voice. Daniel smiled, gently tapping his daughter's nose. "It reminds me that no matter what happens, we can always find beautiful things, even after a storm." Sophia nodded solemnly, as if she understood the depth of her father's words, even at her young age. The night fell softly over Miami, wrapping the house in a blanket of serenity. After dinner, while Evelyn washed the dishes, Daniel took Sophia to bed. He tucked her in lovingly, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Daddy!" Sophia called, her voice small in the darkness of the room. "Do you think Mommy will ever come back?" Daniel felt his heart tighten. He knew this moment would come, but he still wasn't prepared. "Honestly, Princess, I don't know. But what I do know is that no matter what happens, you will always have me and Grandma. We love you more than anything in this world." Sophia was quiet for a moment, digesting his words. Then, in a nearly inaudible whisper, she asked, "Didn't Mommy love me?" Daniel swallowed hard, fighting back tears. "But sometimes you, sweetheart, people have trouble showing love. It doesn't mean they don't love, it just means they're lost. Your mom is lost right now, but that doesn't change the fact that you are the most precious thing that ever happened to us." Sophia reached out, pulling her father into a tight hug. "I love you, Daddy. I love you too, my princess. More than you can imagine." When Daniel returned to the living room, he found Evelyn sitting on the couch, a steaming cup of tea in her hands. "She asleep?" she asked. "Yeah," Daniel replied, collapsing beside her. She asked about Jessica. Evelyn sighed deeply. "It was to be expected. How did you respond?" Daniel recounted the conversation, his voice trembling slightly. "Did I do the right thing, Evelyn? Lying to her about Jessica's love?" Evelyn placed her cup on the table, turning to face Daniel. "You didn't lie, son. You gave her hope. and sometimes hope is all we have. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. Slowly, a new routine was established. Daniel found a job in Miami, moving into a small apartment near Evelyn's house. Sophia started attending a new school, making friends and rediscovering the joy of being a child. One autumn afternoon, almost 6 months after the traumatic events in Orlando, the small family was gathered on Evelyn's porch. The air was filled with the scent of freshly baked apple pie, and the sound of laughter filled the air. Sophia, sitting between her father and grandmother, looked up at the sky tinged with orange and pink. "You know something," she said, her voice full of wisdom beyond her years. "I think I understand now what Daddy meant about finding beautiful things after a storm." Daniel and Evelyn exchanged an emotional glance. "Do you, sweetheart?" Evelyn asked gently. "And what do you think those beautiful things are?" Sophia smiled, a smile that lit up her entire face. "Us, Grandma. We are the beautiful things." Daniel pulled Sophia close, planting a kiss on her forehead. "You're absolutely right, Princess." As the sun set on the Miami horizon, bathing the porch in a golden light, the three remained embraced, a silent testament to the strength of family love and the resilience of the human spirit. The future was still uncertain, full of challenges and possibilities, but one thing was clear. Together, they could face any storm that came their way. Sophia's story reminds us that life, like the ocean, has its highs and lows. Sometimes we're swept away by currents we can't control, carried far from what we know and love. But it's in those turbulent moments that we discover our true strength, our ability to swim against the tide and find our way back to shore. Just as Sophia found her shell after the storm, we all have the capacity to find beauty and hope even in the darkest moments. Family is not always defined by blood, but by love, understanding, and the willingness to stand together, no matter how strong the storm. The journey of Sophia, Daniel, and Evelyn teaches us that forgiveness, though difficult, can be the first step toward healing. That resilience is not just about surviving, but thriving in the face of adversity. And that, in the end, love, in all its imperfect and wonderful forms, is the most powerful force we have to face life's challenges. Dear listeners, I hope this story has touched your hearts as much as it touched mine in telling it.
If you were moved, related to it, or simply enjoyed the narrative, I'd like to ask a special favor. Please subscribe to the channel and leave your like.
Your participation is crucial so that I can continue bringing stories like this, which make us reflect on life, love, and family relationships. I am immensely grateful to have had you with me on this emotional journey. Each of you, with your attentive listening and support, is part of this incredible community we are building together. I can't wait to share the next story with you. Until then, remember, just like Sophia, we all have the ability to find beauty after the storm. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next story.